Peugeot 402 Darl Matte Legere Special Sport Roadster 1938. The Peugeot DS 402 Darl Matte was the result of collaboration among three of the major personalities of the between-the-wars French automotive scene. In the 1930s, Parisian Émile Darl Matte was one of the largest Peugeot dealers in the world. Upon request, he provided his customers with custom bodies when required. He was also known on the racing circuit and acted as a tuning shop for those who wanted to race or customers who wanted their street cars improved for impromptu street and highway contests. The custom bodies often came from coach builder Marcel Peugeot, with whom Darl Matte had worked since the late 1920s. Peugeot ran his shop while his wife looked after the finances. His Paris-based carrosserie expanded as he built a following of the rich and famous, clothing their prestige chassis of the day, including Delahaye, Delage, Bentley, Peugeot, Lancia and Talbot. Peugeot's customers ranged from Prime Minister Georges Clemenceau to film director Marcel Pagnol. The latter used his Paulin designed and Peugeot built Peugeot 601 Eclipse in his film, Les Pounce, 1938. In the early 1930s, Peugeot met Georges Paulin, the son of a Parisian stevedore who encouraged his son to become a dentist. Paulin's early career centered on making dentures in Paris and Nice, but his avocation was innovative automotive design and aerodynamics. He had returned to Paris when he designed and patented a retractable steel top in 1932. This invention brought him together with Peugeot, when Paulin was shopping the concept to coach builders. Paulin designed a body for a Peugeot 301 in 1934 that incorporated his folding steel top and Peugeot built it. It was a success and other Peugeot customers wanted copies, some on the larger 601 chassis. This resulted in Peugeot licensing the design from Paulin and building a 430-unit run of a retractable top 402, known as the 402 BL Eclipse decapotable between 1935 and 1939. Darl Matte was involved in anything Peugeot sold, and he met Paulin through Peugeot. From the mid to late 1930s, Paulin penned some of the world's greatest designs that were executed by Peugeot. Four that became classics of the era were the Embericaz Bentley, the first Delage D8 120, a series of four Talbot T150 CSS coupes. Bonham's sold chassis 90,121 from this series at this sale last year for $4.8 million, and the Peugeot 302 402 Darl Matte, a stunning series of 105 roadsters, coupes and cabriolets. Paris-based Greek banker, André Embericaz, commissioned the Bentley. It was a coupe so advanced that it finished fifth at Le Mans 10 years after it was built. The Delage was a one-off aero coupe ordered by Louis Delage to introduce the new model at the 1937 Paris Auto Show. Unlike other upmarket French designs of the time, it used no metal fillets for decoration and was devoid of bright work except for the grille and hubcaps. It shares the license plate frame shape of the earlier Peugeot Darl Matte. The Delage still turns heads to the point of winning the 2005 Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. The Talbot T150 was one of France's premier sports cars of the era, and Paulin's coupe versions, along with those of Figoni and Falaschi, are among the most memorable automobile designs in history. The 402 DS Darl Matte takes its place among these other masterpieces of French pre-war design. The Peugeot 302 sedan, launched in 1936, was a shorter version of the 402 and had a smaller displacement engine, 1750cc versus 2 liters. The 302 would become the basis for the first version of the Peugeot Darl Matte Roadster. Darl Matte took delivery of the 302 chassis, which were fitted with the 402 engine. Peugeot provided the bodies to a design by Paulin. This combination was called the Peugeot 302 Darl Matte Special Sport. They were produced in Roadster, coupe and cabriolet versions. The narrow Roadster body was shaped in a wind tunnel to concepts of the streamline movement. Art Deco influenced the cascading line of polished aluminum circular air intakes down each side of the bonnet, and Paulin added a dash of whimsy with the heart-shaped license plate holder. In 1937, 3 cars were prepared for the Le Mans 24-hour race. Peugeot provided assistance. The firm had a vaunted Grand Prix record before World War I, and a Peugeot had won the Indianapolis 500 in 1916. Le Mans would be the first time Peugeot had raced seriously since the teens. They finished second, third and fifth in their class. By the next year, Peugeot had introduced a 402 Legere, lightweight, that had a shortened and widened chassis, still with a 2-liter engine. This chassis became the basis of the 1938 car, and 3 were again entered for Le Mans. Darl Mat produced a version with an improved head, higher compression and twin carburetors. The designation was now Peugeot DS402 Darl Mat. This time the Darl Mat, driven by Charles de Courtens and Marcel Contit, finished 5th overall and won the 2-liter class, beating the German Adlers that had won the class the year before. The Le Mans cars differ from the main production run in that they had no doors. The war ended Darl Mat production, and when it was revived afterward, a less attractive body was used. During the conflict, Boulin became an agent of the British Secret Service and was captured and executed by the Nazis in 1942 at the age of 40. Emile Darl Mat continued to operate his dealership right to the time of his death in 1970. The business survives today. Portout died in 1979, but his son Claude carried on his legacy. The firm lives on, now as a body repair shop, coach building having ended in 1994. In all, just 105 Darl Mat specials were built, 53 Roadsters, 20 coupes and 32 cabriolets. The offered example is one of the preferred 1938 cars, built on the 402 Legere chassis. It has all the hallmarks of the design as well as special trim on the fender skirts. A beautiful, arrow fillet runs from just behind the grille, along the lower hood line, dipping with the door line and defining the dual-tone paint. It also features the tricolor 402 at the bottom of the grille, where the 0 is a hole to insert a hand crank. Other special features include an alligator interior, custom gauges set in a turn metal dash and an outside filler cap. The car's provenance includes the most prestigious of American Concours, the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. There, it was part of a class that was a tribute to Boulin and Portout. The fact that such a class existed at Pebble Beach confirms the importance of the designer and coach builder of this fabulous pre-war French sports car. When you add the fact that a similar car won its class in France's greatest race, one begins to appreciate where the 402 DS Darl Mat stands in the firmament of French automotive history. This is a car that would be welcomed at any automotive event in the world. Its elegant design and flawless road manners will bring the new owner an automotive experience that is rarely duplicated.